Hey everyone, LiteCast here. Welcome back. In our last tutorial we talked about file management, where we organized our client folders, made one for our tutorial series, and then made a videography project and made some new folders to identify so that when we want to access different files, we can organize and categorize them in that fashion. If you don't know what we're talking about, check out our last tutorial. The link to that will be in the description below. Alright, so we're going to open up a new project today. All we're going to talk about in today's video is showing you how to make a new project, and then also talking about some of the workspace elements that you can do when creating a new sequence in Adobe Premiere Pro, and some of the UI elements associated with Adobe Premiere Pro, so you can become more familiar with that as well. To make a new project, all you need to do is click New Project, or you can hover over the left corner here, click the File tab, hover over New, and select Project, or what we're going to use more often is keyboard shortcuts. So if you notice, some of these buttons have keyboard shortcuts associated with them. You want to learn and familiarize yourself with them so that you can access files and access your project and edit a lot faster. So the keyboard shortcut for this is Control-Alt-N, and it's going to pop up a new project window. And we're going to browse where we want to save the project first by clicking Browse. And we're going to save it in the gibberish folder, videography, project name, and then we're going to put it in the edits folder. This is where we're going to save not only the Adobe Premiere Pro project files, but also any files associated with the Adobe suite. So select the folder, and then we're going to name the project. And for our sake and our workflow, we like to name it with the date, so January 28th, 01/28, 19 underscore, followed by the name of the project, and then followed by a few extra parameters just for our project, the name of the editor, and then the version number. So that if we ever make new edits or make new versions or renders, we can figure out which ones we worked on so that we can find them faster in the future for our clients and for our own sake. Alright, there's a few tabs here. You don't have to worry about the scratch disk or the ingest settings, just worry about the general settings. Video rendering is simply exactly what you think it is. When you're playing back footage on your composition window for your sequences, it'll use a particular renderer. Since we're using an NVIDIA graphics card, it uses CUDA cores, but you can also identify to make it render off of your CPU if that's an available option, or if you're using an AMD graphics card, it'll show up differently because they don't use CUDA cores, they use something completely different. We're going to keep it on CUDA cores because that's what our GPU is, and then we're going to notify the last real thing we're going to worry about here is video. Make sure it's set to timecode or frames. Don't worry too much about this if you don't know what they are. It probably doesn't pertain to you. Timecode basically identifies on the timeline, which will be located generally here, that your footage will show up on the timeline from hours to minutes to seconds to frames. Yeah, and then if you're using frames, basically if you're using your recording settings is set to like 24 or maybe 30 frames per second, and it's a 5-second piece of footage, if you imported that at 30 frames per second into your timeline for a new sequence or a sequence, it'll show up from 1 to 150 frames because it's 30 frames per second. It's pretty self-explanatory, but if you're confused, leave a comment below and we can talk about it a little further. Keep your audio settings pretty similarly here, and then capture format for default is just HD video because that's the standard these days. Don't check this box and click OK. And then for us it asks us to overwrite it because we made a project in the past. Alright, so now we're in the actual workspace. This is what you would call a workspace, and if you made a mistake or moved something, you can actually hover over the window tab, highlight the hub or workspace here, and then you click reset to save layout or save as new workspace, and it can reset your workspace here. To import a project, all you need to do is our import files. You need to double click the project bin and select new files. There's a bunch of different formats you'll notice that you can actually import. You can click this little button here and it can show you all the supported formats, and you can actually figure out which formats you particularly want to import. And you can also import image sequences or TIFF sequences, but we're not getting into that today. Also, here you'll notice that this denotes exactly what kind of things are linked with the project file. And if you want to import a project file into your timeline or create a new sequence, all you need to do is right click the footage or file and new sequence from clip. It'll make a new sequence here, and you'll notice that you have a new sequence. You can also make another sequence. So let's say you have multiple sequences. You'll notice that new tabs open up and you can name these sequences separately. To keep things consistent, because this will happen a lot where you'll have multiple sequences where you're pre-composing or creating new sequences for new layers or new objects or having main sequences, you want to make new bins. So you can hover down in the project window here and click new bin and make a new bin. We're going to make sequences, and then we're going to make a folder for raw footage right now. And we kind of make things as they go, meaning if we import audio files, we want to make a folder for audio. If we import any image assets or anything like that, we want to make an assets folder too. But for now, since we only have raw footage, we're going to import that and put that into the raw footage folder. And the sequence files right here denoted by the sequence, you can import them and then move them into your sequence folder. So that everything's nice and tidy. Alright, and you can close them, and that's pretty much it. This is the composition window. If you notice, if you double click the sequence, it'll pop up here. And this is the composition window where you can add extra little buttons here by dragging them onto your little kind of button editor, kind of like toolbox. Or you can remove them and move them around. The only one we really like to add is the safe margins so that we can organize and line up our footage. That's pretty much it. We'll go into more depth about this later on. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you like our content, please leave a like, and also if you want to see more of this kind of content, please subscribe to our channel and click the notification icons to stay up to date on any time we make a new video. Until next time, this is LiteCast, and thanks for watching. See you all in the next one.